right, so this one says a native bird population in a city is decreasing at a rate of 10% per year. After 1 year, the population of native birds is 14,000. All right, so now we're asked to write this in recursive notation. So remember that for recursive notation, this is our first term. So we always got to know what the first term is. In other words, when n equals 1, that's the first term. F of 1 is equal to whatever value you start with. So it says after year 1, the first term you have 14,000. So in here I'm just going to write 14,000. Okay. Then it says what are you multiplying by to get the next number? Well, remember that if I start with 14,000, and I'm going to write this in like a geometric sequence, the next number has to be less by 10%. So you do the complement of that, which is 90%. So to get the next number, I'm going to need to take this and multiply it by 0.9. So let's do that real quick on the calculator. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to clear this mode, and I'm going to say pointing, what did I, that's not even a word, 14,000 times 0.90, which is the same as 0.9, right? Now, where does the 0.9 come from? Well, you're really taking 100% of the item, which is really just 1, and subtracting 10% as a decimal, which is 0.10, which leaves you with 0.9, right? That's that part that we're going to multiply by in the explicit form, where this is the 1 minus the rate. Why are we minusing it? Because it decreases. So that's how I get the 0.9. So if I come in here, the cool thing about this graphing calculator is that tells me that the next number is 12,600. So to get the next term, I'm going to multiply that by 0.9. So I think if I just hit equals on my calculator, no. So I got to go 12,600 times 0.9. And I get 11,340. So I get 11,340. And then it says, what about after 4 years? So now I just got to do that one more time. And that will be the 4th year. I think if I just go times 0.9, it'll do the answer times 0.9, which will be 10,206. So this will be 10,206, and that's just because we multiplied this by 0.9 again, and that gives me my 10,206. Now, I could have put this in the explicit form and done that. Oh, I forgot to write down that we're multiplying each term by 0.90 or just 0.9. But I did it in the recursive notation. So remember, in the recursive notation, you're taking the previous number, right? So in other words, f of 1 is just equal to 14,000. But f of 2 is equal to f of 1, which is the previous term, right? Because this is the n minus 1. So f of 2, what's 2 minus 1? Well, let me just write it out so you can see it. So we say n minus 1, which would be 2 minus 1. All right? times 0.9, which is really f of 1, times 0.9, which is really 14,000, times 0.9, which is equal to my 12,600. Now, a lot of times what kids will do is they'll skip all the stuff in the middle and they just multiply, right? So they'll skip this. They don't know where this comes from. They just think of previous term times 0.9 or whatever. But when you see this 2 years later on your SAT test, the kids are like, what? I've never seen that before in my life. Yeah, you have. It was taught to you. You just don't remember what it means. So it's not a bad idea to write all this stuff out. So this would be 3 minus 1 times 0.9. And the reason that we write it out, 3 minus 1 is 2, is because it kind of puts it in our memory. We remember it longer. And so what was the second term? Well, f of 2 was this. So now I'm going to say 12,600 times 0.9. And that equals 11,340. And then lastly, and so I always, when I teach this in a normal setting in the classroom, I have kids go through this process to write everything out, because the formulas matter, the notation matters. A lot of times, kids believe that like math is just about getting the answer. Well, there's a process to get that answer. And really what we're teaching is not, we're teaching that process, and that process has formal notation. And if you know what that formal notation means, then you've learned the process and you'll always get the right answer. So the third term was 11,340 times 0.9, and that gave me the 10,206. Okay. And so let me zoom that out so everybody can see it. So we did all that work, but this chunk of stuff right here, this whole process is really what I'm teaching you, right? That's what I'm teaching you. A lot of kids think, oh yeah, I just take the last term and multiply it by 0.9. Well, yeah, that's true, but that's what I'm teaching you, is where does that process come from, okay? And it's called recursive because it's recurring, and you're just repeating the same process over and over, okay?